Hello. It's been a long time since I did a video, and I think it's the first time since I chopped my beard off. I thought I'd do it in stages. Rip the inside out first, and later my mustache. It gets a bit hard to trim it, get it just right. Anyway, I've got a few windows open, so I'm gonna minimize this window and hope the camera's all right. Plus, I'm using my old webcam, Logitech. Over a year ago, when I went to format my drive and reinstall Windows, I set it up as a single user format, and in the process, and when I went to restore my files, I couldn't restore my Logitech webcam, and I had to use my crappy quality pinhole camera in the HP that I've got sitting here. But tonight I'm back up with my old webcam. So I was able to change the directory structure and reinstituted all users directory structure. But anyway, Bill 52 was on the table on Monday, and I really hate to think that I'm really falling behind in a lot of things I used to be able to stay on top of. I'm back on oxygen full time, and since last November, I've sustained a pretty bad decline in my lung function, my energy level. It affects my visual ability to read and stay focused on stuff I'm working on. That's why a lot of times I just post on Facebook instead of doing stuff I really should be doing. But some of the stuff I'm doing on Facebook is pretty necessary too, because there's a lot of higher political situations directly responsible for a lot of these things, like euthanasia, the euthanasia movement. I'm no longer going to give them the privilege of pawning themselves off to society as the right to die societies and dying with dignity, folks. It's a lot of BS. Now, I know on previous videos I get so out of it, I just let it rip, because this language control mechanism that has been enforced on modern societies is really just a control mechanism. And so 30 years generations ago, they came out with all this how to speak, how to respect others and not be offensive. Meanwhile, the same control freaks who have created all the social norms and communication skills for the rest of us, well, they can abide by those rules because they are so pampered and catered to and have gun happies at the snap of their finger. So nothing ruffles their feathers. They live a life of luxury, calm, peacefulness, quietness, while the bombs are falling all over the world, and our side of the world is being told, oh, there's a terrorist over there. Oh, 3 years ago it was Iran. In 2003, 2001, it was Afghanistan and Iraq. In 2011, it was Libya. And for the last 2 years, it's been Syria. So there's more than enough to get really chewed up about, especially when the US and Canada is so brainwashed to believe what is said in the news. All the major newspapers, the major television networks, the radio stations, they always believe what the main puppeteers are telling us about what's going on at the other side of the world. So there's plenty to get chewed up about. So anyway, concerning the duty to die societies, the Bill 52 is shaking and rattling in Quebec. And Yves Robert seems to come out with a sneaky little attempt to reverse the idea of catching the bad guys. They were euthanizing patients in Quebec and getting away with it. His idea was, oh, see, this shows we need a law here. Yeah, we're going to catch the bad guys. It's merely a psychological game being played by the Quebec chapter of the duty to die societies. Also, let's not forget those BC people, those Savannah Robinson crowd, trying to get the Supreme Court judge to grant assisted suicide and euthanasia for whoever wants it. And of course, if it's a law, it's really going to mean for whoever doesn't want it. Those opportunists from the Quebec Senate Committee of 2010, they got on a plane and went to Holland and Belgium and had a nice cup of tea and cup of coffee and a bit of the champagne, vino, that all the death cult operators in Belgium, Switzerland, and the Netherlands. They come back here, all so happy to tell the Canadian public how sweet it is. Oh, the safeguards over there in Holland, Switzerland, and Belgium, hey, they're going great. There's no problem. Yeah, safeguards are really good. And down there in Oregon, yeah, whoa, no problem. Of course, the Oregon chapter of the Duty to Die, they run the state healthcare system. Yeah. A few years ago, there was a couple of patients. They went public about it after the state authorities said, hey, you know, we can't give you any more cancer treatments. It costs too much. Can you prove you're going to be alive 5 years from now? Nobody could prove it. They're going to be alive in 5 years if they got their cancer treatments. So the dictators had the duty to die, gave them the prescriptions for their execution pills. And they called that suicide medication. And it wasn't suicide at all. They were murdered by the state of Oregon. Murdered. Derek scumbag Humphrey, whatever fiancés you might have running things for you. Anyway. Oh man. I know I'm gonna croak. I'm not sure exactly when. But I've had a lot of people online. The times I have been working in the comments forums, and newspapers and other online sites. Lots of these death cult puppets trying to rub my nose in it. Oh, we know you're just scared to death. And they don't know crap about me. They don't know anything about me. I'm the boogeyman. He has nearly died 4 times. And, yeah, who the hell are they to tell me that you're going to die? Now, I've been in a long-term place since 2000. And it's only, you can see in the video, I'm in a private room now. But if you see in my earlier videos, I wasn't in a private room. And I've been in the rooms before for quite a few years. And there's been quite a few people who died through the years. I mean, you know, like, and these people did not scream and cry and moan and groan that they needed a law passed for them to die in dignity. The duty to die forces have a warped definition of dying with dignity. They really do. And they continually use all these people with all these testimonies to give about the last weeks and months of their family member. And, oh, if only you had a family member, it was taking months, weeks and months for them to die. You think I don't have parents? You think my parents didn't die? Yeah, they did. But I'm sure as hell glad there was no law passed to execute them. My parents are pretty well cared for. And so there's a lot of other people of the World War II generation and World War I generation were pretty well cared for before these scaremongers, the intellectual eugenics terrorists, got on the bandwagon to make a market out of execute people. And now Belgium's up there ripping people's organs out of them and making sure they get a good price tag for killing them off and stripping their organs for organ donations. So, whatever time I got left, my top priority is to do anything I can to block any kind of laws at all in this country, in Canada, and for these sucky-wucky separatist terrorists that they've spent 100 years crying and moaning about French language and culture. They worked for trying to be the role model for the whole world to look up to about something. And now they finally got a think tank to help them come up with a new term called medical aid in dying. Oh, isn't it sweet? I guess what? A whole bunch of doctors use presentations at the commission, the select committee commission hearings. An entire whole bunch of doctors rejected legalizing anything in this country or this province. And the committee took all their presentations and rejected it. So that what they removed from their final report on what Quebecers wanted, it looked like they were the winners. It's like terrorists can never win by real democratic voting. So they attack whatever results come in and do what they can to delete it or just make sure it gets buried. Well, you know, what needs to get buried is euthanasia, assisted suicide. That's what needs to get buried. And the CRTC in Canada and the FCC in the US need to put a clamp on any further mention of euthanasia, assisted suicide, or any other fancy new name and title they cook up, wave a magic wand to create, period. There needs to be no further mention of the word euthanasia or assisted suicide or anything which could be conceived as defining the same terrorist act. And I'll remind you too, the Holocaust, it began with the extermination of people with disabilities. Anybody considered having inferior genes. And what's funny is the people with the most inferior genes are the people running the show. Bunch of psychopaths. Yet societies continue to allow them to run the whole bloody governmental system. It's time to put a stop to it. And for all you chicken shits out there that are so afraid of dying, so afraid of pain, so afraid of suffering, why don't you guys contact the people that could help you understand what's going on? You can contact the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition. You can contact the Not Dead Yet organization. You can contact the Doctors for Total Refusal of Euthanasia organization. There are organizations you can contact to find out what are these duty to die cult members and leaders not telling you. Why is it their money over the commercials they make in all their TV talk shows, documentaries they make? Why are they having so much influence over public opinion? And also, why is it that we cannot have movie producers that we're going to hear our side of the story and start doing not just documentaries, but doing fiction movies? And there's a lot of people, movie producers, can get in touch with and talk to everybody. You can talk to our lawyers involved. You can talk to the medical personnel involved. You can talk to the disability rights organizations. There's more than enough testimony and information available that movie producers could forget about the Oscars and all the big shot stuff in Hollywood. Why don't you get a heart? Why don't you get a brain? They said it's looking for money and fame. During the years that Terry Schiavo was, her case is going through the courts, I was really interested and a movie producer to go down there to Florida and interview her parents and the lawyers involved. And instead, it's just always portraying Michael Shivel's side, the duty to die side. Why isn't there one movie producer cannot come out and be willing to act on our interests? There was one movie actor, I can't remember his name right now, but he sent word to the Schindlers one time that he supported their efforts, but this guy was always demonized by Hollywood because it wasn't one of the liberals and stuff. But it would really be good if we could get the support of at least one or two movie producers, and also one of the major rock bands. I mean, I expect they're all pro-euthanasia, but a lot of us used to be pro-euthanasia during the early 90s when Sue Rodriguez hit the big news, and then Robert Latimer killed his daughter. At that point, I was pro-euthanasia. At the same time, I was having a problem with my situation. I never had a problem all my life after I finished corrective surgery when I was a kid. I mean, I went on for 20 years, kind of being able to live and work in different countries and on the road a lot, doing missionary work, social work, with an organization. We lived communally. It helped me because I had to live with people all my life, get basic help to get my legs on in the morning, off at night, help take a shower, and stuff like that. I was just cooking, laundry, and all that. But I made it so I could devote my time to doing what I could do. Teaching, well, I did study Bible prophecies. I taught that a lot on and off the first few years. And when I was able to play the guitar, and I wound up, a lot of time I went out and hit the streets busking, more as a fundraiser for quite a few years. And then when I had to go on my own, it wasn't long before I started having a medical problem. I thought I had cancer. I was bleeding a lot. I had gastrointestinal hemorrhages. That's what caused the two of my earlier near-death problems, gastrointestinal. But in 1993, it was 20 years ago this year, it was on Easter weekend, and some roommates, I wasn't working with the organization anymore. I was kind of like thinking of what I was going to do the rest of my life. I was going to try to explore work as a freelance writer. I just thought, well, I've got cancer. I'm just going to go to the hospital and die in the emergency room so my roommates don't have to fill out any police reports. But I woke up. And after I did, I'll cut all the rest of it out. I think I'll gone over it before maybe, but the doctor was such a nice guy. He explained it to me. Didn't have cancer, and he said that I had bled from protein deficiency. So, in a year and a half, I had another 2 partial respiratory failures, and they kept intubating me. And I said, "What the fuck?" You know, but then one day I landed here, and a doctor explained it to me. He said, every time you landed here, every time you landed in a hospital emergency, you had a carbon dioxide reading of over 100. And she said, well, a normal person wouldn't even be alive at 80 if her carbon dioxide was that high. Then I finally got the point. She explained to me about my birth defect and what little there was known about it in those days. And one doctor told me one day he thought I was probably the oldest guy alive with arthrogryposis, and I probably am. A few years ago, I actually found that there is an online, even on Facebook, that there's what was it, a group of arthrogryposis people, and they seem pretty young, and it's kind of like they seem to feel that now arthrogryposis victims are probably able to live a full-term life. So I thought, hey, cool. But at the time I discovered this on Facebook, I was recovering from something that happened in 2006. And it's because of a drug that one doctor put me on because my white cells or red cells were low when I was taking a treatment for hepatitis C, which I contracted one time in a blood transfusion. But anyway, these, oh boy, I get so wound up, I kind of lose track of my thought, you know. But anyway, all that to say is, all these people that have been online trying to rub my nose in and out, what a chicken I am, afraid to die. No, I'm not afraid to die because I've seen quite a few people die, but they were not freaking out wanting a law passed, and they died with dignity, and my wife died with dignity. And if there had been a law passed in 2006 when my wife died, she would have not have died with dignity, because most of the executions are not because of the people who want them. They're the executions of the people they wanted to target, which is why they wanted to get their laws. And for Yves Robert, opportunist as he is, I am not going to allow a guy like that to get away with this kind of stuff and deceitful mind game, trying to make it look like, oh, their safeguards are going to be better than the other countries' safeguards. Yeah. Well, stick your safeguards up your back. Yves Robert, France, Jean Lalonde, Jeffrey Kelly, and everybody else in that Senate committee. The day I made it there to the Senate committee hearings, and I didn't plan to give a speech, but they asked me if I wanted to. I said, okay, sure. And you guys agreed to it. Well, I gave it. But after that, and I see what you guys have done to those reports and all those meetings, there's no way I intend to be polite, respectful, or anything else to you guys. I want to see that the Living with Dignity organization, the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition, the Not Dead Yet, and the total refusal for euthanasia organizations are heard. And Wanda Morris seems to be one of their newest little spokeswomen. Say she's got spokes in a bicycle wheel stuck in her mouth. She's a very deceitful, opportunist, and a good professional liar. And you guys can deny all the reports you want. You can deny the statistics all you want. It does not change the facts. And what we need to do is get the facts to every Canadian and every American. And you know what we need to do is have every one of you hunted down, rounded up, deported from this country. Euthanasia came from Europe, the land of the Dark Ages, and that's where euthanasia belongs. And we need Canadian and American leaders who put the US and Canada first, not Israel, not England, not France and Germany, and not Italy. Canadians are Canadians. Americans are Americans. We need to put a stop to dual citizenship. Rip it up. You can only be loyal to one country. Now, there's been quite a few of us and patriot groups have talked about this online. Well, not a lot of people, but I know I've really pushed it for the last 4 years. And this idea that these foreigners come here and start making policies for our country, screw you. You want your multiculturalism? Go home. But this is Canada. And this is not the new Canada. And the U.S. is not the new USA just because tens of millions of illegal aliens have flooded into the country and are getting jobs. The only people the U.S. and Canada needs are the people who believe in the way we see things and our values. We don't need anybody who wants to come in here and start changing the way we see things, thinking they have to teach us anything. That's why both these countries are a political and economic mess. Yet the bank mobs, they got enough toys with their artificial money. They keep printing enough toys so that the people in their 20s and 30s don't know anything. They're just feeling good. Gotta be drugs. Got lots of toys and iPhones and iPads and oh, good. And the murder rate is getting out of control. And then they blame it on the gun owners, when the gun owners don't do anything wrong. So I dare say that there needs to be a real change take place. And they can't do that with the way things are and social trends and all these philosophers and intellectual troublemakers. They're always trying to tell people what to think, how to think and how to act and how to behave. They're turning Americans and Canadians into nothing more than mindless puppets and robots. We need to get the US and Canada back to where everybody is an individualist. That people don't feel like they have to be part of something, but they can regain their own creativity. And create their own productivity. So, concerning euthanasia, let's throw it right out of the country and not allow these people, these intellectual terrorists, to spread this hate word anymore. Assisted suicide and all this crybaby stuff about the pain and the suffering. There's so much bullshit. The doctors of palliative care have explained a lot. There needs to be training across the country so that there's a universal standard, a universal definition of how to treat the people who do have intolerable pain. And I knew one guy, one such guy. He was in intolerable pain from the time before he came here to the time he died. It was so unbearable, but they were able to finally manage his pain. And no, it's not like Yves and his twisted serial killer friends want you to believe that people in intolerable pain are murdered. It's a lie. But Yves and his friends, they do want to murder people. I won't say everybody, because the people who request it and understand exactly what they want, that's not murder. But still, I disagree with the law, because of the fact that 50% of the executions are not even reported in Belgium. Why do you think that is? It's plain and simple because they don't consider those people even people anymore. Vegetable is the biggest hate word they've ever come up with. Now, if you dare call a black person a nigger, I'll tell you something. There will be fire coming out of the sky for weeks. It will receive 24-hour-a-day news coverage. And for all the people, and 80%, 50% of the people who are executed are not even reported their executions. Oh, here's vegetable. Put them out to the trash. And because most people, even when you try to explain to them what's going on, they don't care. Oh, well, it's not happening to me. It's not happening to anybody I know. Big deal. And they have that same attitude toward the wars. The government back here in the media pump away their the terrorists. They're just jealous of our standard of living. And it's a total lie. They're halfway around the world, just all upset because you invaded the country, accuse them of things they're not even guilty of, and then turn around and blame it on them. And it's really time that Americans and Canadians turned off the TV. Better yet, put your foot right through the screen and get online and do some studying. Establish direct connection and live feeds with the people in the areas of that are under attack. That's what I did with Libya. There's just, when they started ripping up Libya, accusing Gaddafi, I just dropped everything because I knew too much about Gaddafi from the 1970s. And I established direct connection with people inside and outside Libya, independent journalists, and got to communicating a lot through Facebook and other means. And I was really shocked to really find that 85%, I would say a good 85% of what was put on CNN was a lie. And there are a couple of mainstream news reports that some of my contacts were reading online, and they couldn't understand certain things that CNN or other newspapers were saying. I said, well, let's put it this way. From what I've compared what's going on for real in Libya, this is in 2011, and I compare it to what's in the news media here, I would have to say it's like reverse definition. Anything you don't really understand in the news reports, where it gets difficult to understand, change the definition and read a whole article again. And 2 or 3 people got back to me. That's about right. The news media and CNN a lot of times speak a reverse code, reverse definition code. That's the best I can interpret it, or define it. Reverse definition code. They're liars. They used to have a commercial. CNN, the most trusted name in news. I pumped that one out quite a bit on Twitter and Facebook, and it wasn't too long later that they dropped that commercial. CNN, the most untrusted name in news. Okay, well, I'm going to read something. Shot my mouth off long enough. But, let's see here. The Belgian lecturer blames the euthanasia law for the death of his depressed mother. This is September 12th, 2013. The Alex Schadenberg blog. Oh, it's Euthanasia Prevention Coalition newsletter. So there's a newswire. Montreal, September 12th, 2013. Dr. Tom Marchier, PhD lecturer of chemistry at University College of Leuven, or however you pronounce it, in Belgium, critiqued the Belgian euthanasia law at a press conference in Montreal. On April 20, 2012, he learned from the hospital without prior notice, this is in Belgium, that his mother, at the age of 64, was euthanized the previous day by a lethal injection at the hospital at the Free University of Brussels, no, in Belgium. His mother did not suffer an incurable disease like cancer or a neurodegenerative disease such as Lou Gehrig's disease. She suffered from chronic depression. The euthanasia death was carried out by an oncologist and a recommendation of a single psychiatrist. Other psychiatrists did not concur with the poor prognosis of her condition or agreed to her request. The family has been overwhelmed by the death. It should be noted that Mrs. Yves de Troyes was a retired teacher who loved to travel. She had experienced significant losses in the past. She was widowed after the suicide of her husband and later suffered a breakup in a long-term relationship that precipitated, again, her depression. Dr. Tom Marchier and his family are not the only victims of a law that provides access to euthanasia for people with terminal illnesses, but also to those affected by depression, loss of memory, and anticipated diseases. Currently before the Belgian Senate, a law is being proposed to extend euthanasia to disabled children and those losing their autonomy. Dr. Paula Sabat, as a coalition of positions for social justice, denounced not only the countries and states in the United States who practice euthanasia, but also the Quebec government, which is currently promoting Bill 52, which has many similarities with the Belgian law. All societies that allow euthanasia, promote death, and safeguards consistently fail. International studies show that informed consent is not always respected. Reporting mechanisms are being ignored, and patients with mental health problems do not receive psychiatric treatment that they need. In fact, according to Dr. Paul Zaba, Quebec is currently promoting euthanasia as a cheap alternative to palliative care, which is currently accessible to only about 20% of the population. Unfortunately, 80% of the patients who need palliative care do not have the strength and stamina to demand additional investments that would allow them to finish their lives without suffering and with dignity. So that's that article. According to the reports that were done by members of parliament across the country and healthcare workers, Euthanasia Prevention Coalition, they had a completely different report when they finished assessing what went on in Quebec. And it's up to the provinces to come up with the resources, the financial, economic resources they need, and the training for the people who need to benefit from it. The nurses, doctors, therapists, caregivers, whatever. So, on the country as a whole, there is a plan. It's all laid out. It just needs to be put into effect. And then, when they do put it into effect, there's no need for some law for euthanasia. There's no need for a law of euthanasia anyway. Adolf Hitler started it. Hey, I mean, I'm sure there's some real diehards who are maybe the grandchildren of Hitler's officers who came to Canada. After World War II, Hitler's top officers never were executed. They just grabbed a bunch of flunkies and executed them. Most of the top officers were actually integrated to the U.S. military. CIA, NASA, you got it. There are others were given asylum in Argentina and Canada. So I'm very, very interested to know exactly how many of these people have been influential in Canada's duty to die societies. That's it for tonight. Maybe I'll rip my mustache off before I do another video. But take care. Not if you're my enemies. But my friends, take care. Hello. It's been a long time since I did a video. And I think it's the first time since I chopped my beard off. I thought I'd do it in stages. Rip my the inside out first, and later my mustache. It gets a bit hard to trim it, you know? Get it just right. Anyway. I've got a few windows open, so I'm gonna minimize this window and hope the camera's alright. Plus I'm using my old webcam, Logitech. Over a year ago when I went to format my drive or reinstall Windows, I set it up as a single user format, and in the process, and when I went to restore my files, I couldn't restore my Logitech webcam, and I had to use my crappy quality pinhole camera in the HP that I've got sitting here. But tonight I'm back up with my old webcam. So I was able to change the directory structure and reinstituted all users directory structure. But anyway, Bill 52 was on the table on Monday, and I really hate to think that I'm really falling behind in a lot of things I used to be able to stay on top of. I'm back on oxygen full time, and since last November, I've sustained a pretty bad decline in my lung function, my energy level. It affects my visual ability to read and stay focused on stuff I'm working on. That's why a lot of times I just post on Facebook instead of doing stuff I really should be doing. But some of the stuff I'm doing on Facebook is pretty necessary too, because there's a lot of higher political situations directly responsible for a lot of these things, like euthanasia, the euthanasia movement. I'm no longer going to give them the privilege of pawning themselves off to society as the right to die societies and dying with dignity, folks. Oh, there's a terrorist over there. Oh, 3 years ago it was Iran. In 2003, 2001, it was Afghanistan and Iraq. In 2011, it was Libya. And for the last 2 years, it's been Syria. So there's more than enough to get really chewed up about, especially when the US and Canada is so brainwashed to believe what is said in the news. All the major newspapers, the major television networks, the radio stations, they always believe what the main puppeteers are telling us about what's going on at the other side of the world. So there's plenty to get chewed up about. So anyway, concerning the duty to die societies, the Bill 52 is shaking and rattling in Quebec. And Yves Robert seems to come out with a sneaky little attempt to reverse the idea of catching the bad guys. They were euthanizing patients in Quebec and getting away with it. His idea was, oh, see, this shows we need a law here. Yeah, we're going to catch the bad guys. It's merely a psychological game being played by the Quebec chapter of the duty to die societies. Also, let's not forget those BC people, those Savannah Robinson crowd trying to get the Supreme Court judge to grant assisted suicide and euthanasia for whoever wants it. And of course, if it's a law, it's really going to mean for whoever doesn't want it. Those opportunists from the Quebec Senate Committee of 2010, they got on a plane and went to Holland and Belgium and had a nice cup of tea and cup of coffee and a bit of the champagne. It's a lot of BS. Now, I know on previous videos I get so out of it, I just let it rip, because this language control mechanism that has been enforced on modern societies is really just a control mechanism. And so 30 years, generations ago, they came out with all this how to speak, how to respect others and not be offensive. Meanwhile, the same control freaks who have created all the social norms and communication skills for the rest of us, well, they can abide by those rules because they are so pampered and catered to and have gun happies at the snap of their finger. So nothing ruffles their feathers. They live a life of luxury, calm, peacefulness, quietness, while the bombs are falling all over the world, and our side of the world is being told